So if you click on the bottom down on your screen, you will get interpretation in French, Arabic, so that you can better follow the session. And I believe we started now to stream live on YouTube. I would like to welcome you in the name of the Cities Alliance. My name is Ana Claudia Rosba. I'm the regional manager for the region Latin American Caribbean, and we are pleased to co-organize this session in partnership with OIDP and ENDA ECOPOP under invitation from UCLG Africa. The structure of the session follows the same from the other labs in this UTC. So we'll have mayors and then very interesting panel with 7 representatives from civil society, community-based organizations, and also research institutions and the national government. Yeah, the idea here is to discuss issues around governance and citizenship engagement. We have seen after the COVID and the pandemic emergence that many solidarity networks were created in our cities. So actually the cities, the mayors and the communities were at the front line, are at the front line in responding to COVID and also managing the impacts of COVID. We also see in our cities in the south that there's still a high prevalence of informality. We do have people occupying informally settlements, living informally in settlements. We do have people occupying informally public spaces in our cities. So the informal economy and the informality of land is basically a very common feature in our cities. So this session is structured around this aspect, the fact that we do have to address informal situations, and these areas actually became even more vulnerable after the emergence of COVID, after the pandemic, and it will take us lots of efforts to manage the impacts and to address effectively in order to overcome the structural inequalities that affect our cities. But also where governance is going to, right? We have in many of our cities in our countries experiences of citizenship participation. We'll do have some reflections about participatory budget here, but it's interesting to see what's gonna happen after COVID, right? So how these networks will be able to institutionalize themselves, if they will be, and how we that are here, mayors and panelists in these sessions, are perceiving that changes will take place, and we'll be able to have, more balanced gender, community, civil society participation in the decision making of the territory of our cities. So with that, I would like to welcome the first panel, the city's representatives. We will have with us 2 mayors, the mayor of the city of Banjul in Gambia, Madame Royatou Love, and also Mr. Idrissa Diallo, the mayor of Dalifort for Rayo. Yeah, the idea of mayor's interventions is that they reflect with us about which participatory mechanisms that emerged during this pandemic can be sustained to maintain the spheres of dialogue and foster citizenship engagement on the local level. So, I don't know, Mayor of Banjul, would you like to start? Are you connected? Not yet.
Le maire de Banjul n'est pas là.
Ah, n'est pas là. Okay. So the mayor, sorry, so it's the mayor of Bangui. Are you able to connect? Are you connected?
Non, non, le maire de
No?
Bangui n'est pas là. C'est celui du Sénégal qui est en train de se connecter, mais il
Senegal
n'est pas
is
encore
there?
là.
Okay, perfect. So, Mr. Idrissa Diallo, Mayor of Dalifort Forel, region of Dakar, Senegal, are you connected?
Not yet.
Okay, still trying to connect. Perfect. Okay. So I believe we'll have to do the other way around. So we start with the panelists, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I understand Mr. David Koetze, a manager from ICT Governance and Administration from Drakenstein Municipality, Western Cape, South Africa, do have a presentation to share with us around COVID-19, citizenship engagement information and perspective, what can be learned from it. Would you like to start launching your presentation, Mr. David?
Farayat, are you going to launch the presentation? Or should I do it?
Je vais afficher la présentation.
Yes, it's coming. It's there, Mr. David.
Thank you so much. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, but it's on slide 5. Is that correct?
Yeah, I inserted the slide on my side for my own clarity's sake.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much, Program Director. I'm going to start with just a slideshow that shows the ecosystem within which local government exists. And we exist to service the needs of the citizens within the environmental needs, and the environmental needs and the health needs, security needs, everything is driven towards what was laid down in the SDGs in 2015. So when COVID came, it structurally upset this model. It changed some of the entities within this model. So what we have here is over the short, medium, and long term, we are working towards achieving the future situation as established through the SDGs and also our local context and our citizen needs in the context of our citizen needs. So when COVID came, it created a disaster, and it's unlike any disaster we ever expected. Where we stay, we supply, the environment supplies 4% of the wine export of the world, and they were not allowed to move wines. They were not allowed to move alcohol. So there was a complete crash of a big part of our economic system within the municipal area. So when a adverse event occurs, it is of course back to the drawing board. What's the impact? How do we respond to it? Where should our focus areas be? Our focus areas changed a bit from what we are accustomed to. The impact on long-term focus and so on. So when COVID happened, we ended up with this type of situation. There's a decrease in the local income, there's a increase in the municipal expenditure, and the economy took a dive. Education was stopped completely. Because of the disparities within the community, some schools could go online, some schools couldn't. The schools that couldn't, their children cannot afford access to the internet. so they never took their classes and so on online. And of course also their health and wellness situation, where we had a couple of areas in our municipality where social distancing couldn't happen. How do you social distance with 12 to 30 people staying in the same house? It's very difficult. And then also there was a part of the population that believed that they were completely immune to the disease. So they didn't do the social distancing and they didn't use the protective equipment. So with this, there is a response expected from a municipality, and the municipality mastered whatever they had to and tried to do and achieve whatever they could. And what would the enablers here was what finances are available, what resources are available, and what relationships were available. And some of the relationships that should have existed didn't exist. And of course, we know that there was a huge adverse effect on the financial situation. So what we identified within the municipality is, of course, first of all, a lack of information, lack of response capability and capacity, lack of information specifically towards, we didn't know which organizations within the municipal area supports the poor, because they will, of course, know who the poor is. We knew about some of them, we knew some of them existed, but we didn't know exactly where they were and how to get hold of them. We didn't know immediately, of course, of all the financial resources that's available in terms of a response to help coordinate the response and help pay for the response for COVID and so on. And a normal plan is to plan for a disaster such as an earthquake, damage to infrastructure, fires and stuff like that. But here we had something that's absolutely a soft disaster. So the disaster management teams were not completely, and I think nowhere in the world were they completely prepared for what to hit them. And the vulnerability of individuals. This virus doesn't look at class and it doesn't look at gender. It just went for everybody and infected everything. And then the misuse of emergency procurement for personal gain was an issue countrywide in South Africa, and also politicians using the situation to further their own agendas. So that was also made national news on this side, that food parcels only went to people that voted for me in the previous election and so on. So there's a lot of mismatches that happened within the response to the general response, and I'm not talking about the municipality only, the general response to the COVID epidemic. And in that, we realized that there's a lot of information that we should have that we didn't have. There are relationships that we should have built that we didn't build. And of course, emergency funds and access to emergency funds and how to get it and so on. The COVID epidemic, the financial impact and the people impact brought us to a realization that the strategic direction and strategic intent that we had in the beginning of March, the beginning of February, and that we have now is two completely different entities. So the strategic plan we had in place for the next 20, 30, 50 years now has to change, because we need to prepare for a similar event for in case, and the financial distribution, or the distribution of finances in the vicinity is of course an issue. It's going to take roughly 18 to 24 months for certain sectors of the economy to find its feet again, and our municipal finances are directly related to it. This is my last slide. We need to prepare for similar situations, but we need to maintain the momentum that we establish within that preparation. So from our municipal side, we created what we call a data management grouping, which is under the leadership of an executive manager. And there are 3 tasks at hand. The first task is, what information were we supposed to have that we did not have, and what should we put in place to get there? The second thing is, what information do we have that is incorrect, that should be corrected? And lastly, who are the owners of the information that's supposed to maintain it? So going into the future, we as local government need to learn from the experience of COVID in order to prepare for the future. And at the core of this is decision making that is built around information. We need to put in place everything that we can to protect information, to collect the correct information, and to maintain it into the future. Thank you, Madam Program Director.
Thank you, Mr. De Wit. I understand, no, the mayor hasn't joined us yet. So maybe we go for another panelist from the civil society. Mrs. Sareen Malik, Executive Secretary from the African Civil Society Network on Water and Sanitation. Mr. De Wit spoke a lot about information and preparedness, and water was is a crucial instrument, right, to respond to COVID. So it's the basics. So we need water, we need shelter and water to be safe at home. So what are the lessons from your network that you can share with us? But you are on mute.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you very much, Ana Claudia, for this, and thank you all for being here today with us. So my name is Sareen Malik. I'm the Executive Secretary for ANU, the African Civil Society Network for Water and Sanitation, and the Vice Chair for the Sanitation and Water for All partnership. So today I really wanted to share a bit of lessons from the water sector, especially during such disruptive times that COVID has brought on. And of course, I'm sure you're well aware that water is the first barrier against the fight for COVID. So how have countries who have already been struggling with access to water, what have been some of the lessons that have been learned, and who did better generally? Now, I want to bring it down more towards the case of Kenya as an example of what had been done when this came up, and the various roles of the stakeholders that got involved in supporting local authorities and supporting cities in access to water, and having communities that live in informal settlements access water as well at the same time. Now, Kenya is an interesting case, and the reason for it is that the socio-political context rests on reforms. The improvement of civil society and citizen engagement and people's participation has gradually been a key figure due to the reforms that took place. One in 2002, when the public sector reform was done, and the most important one in 2010, when we had the constitution that was promulgated that put people at the center. So that means the Bill of Rights, and in our case, the right to water and sanitation, right to education. This meant a complete alignment of the governance structure to the Bill of Rights within the policies and the practices. And amongst those, one of the alignment and one of the operationalization of putting people at the center had to do with the public participation bills and the public participation laws. Now, these are really critical. We're not saying that before we were not having any kind of engagements between the citizen, the local authorities, and the state. It was there, greatly facilitated by civil society organizations. But post-2010, we actually saw it enshrined and recognized by the supreme law of the country, and whereby now we saw governments and service institutions having to align and ensure that they're bringing people on board at the decision-making phase in terms of the dialogue, at the budgeting processes, which of course is one of the most critical elements of public participation. But more than anything, this engagement, and this is where we saw it in COVID, rests on robust and sound coordination, which was built over the years, particularly in the water sector, particularly between civil society organizations and other stakeholders, as well as water service providers and the utilities and the state. Why do I say coordination, and what did coordination look like? This, whether in the urban or even within the rural, which meant already systems and structures that had been put in place, whether by public participation bills, whether by budgetary processes, but also just dialogue, a lot of dialogue that was actually taking place pre-reforms and dialogue that took place after the reforms. Now, I'm not saying it was great, in terms of what was going on, but we did see government and civil society come together, particularly in the water sector, to join forces to plan in more of a coherent and come up with, in a concerted manner, a way of ensuring that water was accessible to all, where we were having awareness raising, where a lot of the advocacy was being done by civil society organizations, supported by funding from government. So I think that is also important to note. So yes, building trust is important between the various parties. This is something that we urge civil society organizations to do, but also holding to account, using social accountability tools, but also the really critical element of coordination that was key in terms of ensuring that we were positioned to the best of our abilities. And despite our limitations, as you know, the water sector is the one that really came under huge strain during the COVID-19 pandemic to try and see this through. So moving forward, and for countries that are here present, and in terms of examples, it will be good to study these examples. In the case of Ghana, we know that it was really strong leadership that saw the mobilization of the various stakeholders come together. It was orders from above that ensured that every local government, every civil society actor, every sector stakeholder was actually involved together in solidarity in the fight against COVID. Thank you very much. I'm sure we will continue the discussion as we go on. Merci.
Thank you, Mrs. Serene. This was an amazing presentation. So you spoke about law, trust, and funding, and also coordination. So it's very, very important that mobilization is there, but also very important that there is a law, right? There's a legal framework that says participation is compulsory, right? At the local level, at the national level, there are spaces, institutionalized spaces for participation. So let's maybe go, while we wait for the mayor that's still trying to connect, let's maybe go to Uganda. Sarah, you were there. Sarine spoke a lot about coordination, community participation. So, and you are from SDI, right? You are community leader from National Slum Dwellers Federation of Uganda. And you do collect information. Yes. You are working in informal settlements. How did you manage the situation after COVID and these dialogues with the government? Can you share with us?
Yes, thank you. Like you said, I'm Sarah. I'm a member of National Slum Dwellers Federation of Uganda. Like you said, for us, we believe in collecting data so that we can know the challenges people are facing. Now, we managed to come up with the managing the situation of COVID is because as community, we are organized. We organize our members in groups, so we sensitize them. But the challenge is that when we are not involved or participating direct, we don't own these things. So there are challenges we are facing that in planning, sometimes they leave us out. And when we are left out, we come up with issues, but you realize they are not worked on. And two, in our process, for us, we say that we empower communities to plan, manage, and own, such that sustainability of things are there, but the engagement of community is little in most cities. So we are saying, when we engage communities, it will help to eradicate COVID, because government wasn't able to provide some things for the community. So we sanitizers, masks, food even, because people were working and the lockdown affected them. They were not going for work, so the food was little. And you realize they ate all the food, but the government was not even able to provide those things. But through our organized groups and savings, the communities managed to have those things. They are saving. And you realize that in our process, we have things like, we have committees which is dealing with health issues, health and hygiene committee relating to COVID. So we do cleanups, we do waste management, turning garbage into wealth, we do water and sanitation, and all this is done through our savings as communities. So what we want to see is that the inclusion of members or communities is there, so that the pandemic can be curbed, because we are the people facing all this, and we are neglected at another hand. But we are fighting a lot to see that we are engaged and involved in planning, so that maybe the joint solutions can help us. Yeah, that is the little I can share with you. Hello.
Hello, Sarah, we are listening.
Yes, that is what I can cover. But what we are saying in conclusion is that we want a meaningful partnerships with different stakeholders and even government, so that we can come up with solutions which can help us and help community peoples and help community people to see that they mitigate the COVID pandemic. Thank you. That is what I can say.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, indeed, partnerships at the community level are critical because especially in relation to informal settlements, it's very difficult for people working in cities, working at city government, to understand what's going on, to have information about the households, about the families, about what they need, about what they can also offer, right? So I see in the case of Brazil, the country where I'm living right now, I see that without the support of community-based organizations, the mayors wouldn't be able to reach out and offer support in response to COVID. No support of any form, of cash transfer, in form of food, in form of health equipments and sanitary protection equipment and health services at all. So we do have the mayor of Senegal, of Dalifort Forel, region of Dakar, Senegal. Welcome, Mr. Idrissa Diallo. I understand you are already connected, and you are going to share your experience around the participatory budgeting, a key lever for citizenship engagement. there is translation. So we have interpretation. So feel free to speak in French as well. Mayor Idrissa, are you connected? Yeah, your mic is now you're there. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to you. The discussion will be in English or French for me?
As you wish. We do have interpretation, Mayor.
Ok. Donc, merci, bonjour, bonsoir. Sarah, bonjour à tout le monde. Hein, ce sont là où on est. Donc, je suis Idrissa Diallo, maire de la commune d'Alifort-Foray, dans la banlieue de Dakar, département de Pikine. Donc, Dalifort, c'est une commune qui fait à peu près 35 000 habitants environ. Et je suis maire depuis 2009. Alors, nous avons eu une expérience de budget participatif depuis 2010, c'est-à-dire le premier budget que j'ai déroulé dans cette commune est un budget participatif, donc fait avec les populations selon leur orientation, selon leurs désirs. Donc, c'est ça que je voudrais aujourd'hui partager avec vous. Je ne sais pas, c'est le moment où il faut attendre jusqu'à 16 heures. Donc, je ne sais pas, il faut que j'y aille carrément. Ou alors je dois attendre un peu.
Seulement, tu peux y aller directement.
Oui, voilà. Vous pouvez.
Voilà. Donc, le budget participatif à Dalifort est né d'un besoin très sérieux parce que quand nous prenions la mairie en 2009, on était confrontés à de véritables problèmes d'inondation. Donc, la commune avait des problèmes sérieux parce que c'était une commune d'arrondissement qui dépendait d'une ville. Hein. Ça a été changé depuis 2014, après ce qu'on appelle l'acte 3. Mais avant, nos finances dépendaient principalement de la ville et que la ville de Pikine n'avait pas les moyens de faire face aux 16 communes qu'il a composées, parce que toutes ces communes étaient à peu près dans la même situation parce que toutes étaient inondées. Donc, face à cette situation, chaque citoyen croyait qu'il avait la solution, chacun croyait aussi que la mairie pouvait faire quelque chose. Donc, il était important de discuter et d'aller ensemble, parce qu'il fallait un mouvement d'ensemble, il fallait convaincre tout le monde, il fallait aller ensemble, parce que la mairie seule, les citoyens de l'autre côté, rien ne marchera. Donc, on avait décidé de discuter ensemble, mais après les inondations, que cette période n'était pas propice pour faire quoi que ce soit. Je crois que ça, le discours a été entendu, parce que l'engagement était là, la municipalité, c'est-à-dire le maire et tout son conseil municipal étaient régulièrement dehors avec les populations, donc il y avait cette confiance qui était établie. Donc, cette inondation et les problèmes urbains qu'on avait, c'est-à-dire il y avait des problèmes de voirie, il y avait des problèmes de cadre de vie énormes, tout ça découlait des inondations, faisait que vraiment les populations attendaient des solutions. Et ces solutions ne pouvaient pas venir directement de la mairie parce qu'elles n'avaient pas les moyens. Les moyens de la mairie, c'est combien? C'était le budget tourné aux alentours de 75 millions. 75 millions, c'est à peu près quoi? C'est rien du tout en francs CFA. Je ne sais pas, je voulais le mettre en euros, mais c'est difficile à dire. C'était après 75 millions de francs CFA. Ça ne pouvait rien faire par rapport aux inondations. Donc, on a dit, il faut qu'on discute, il faut qu'on s'explique. Et on allait vers le budget participatif. Et pour y aller, il fallait écouter les gens, il fallait écouter, ils avaient des solutions, il fallait les écouter de façon isolée, il fallait aller vers eux, il fallait montrer qu'on est prêt à travailler. Nous, on restait dans l'eau jusqu'à 4 h du matin. Donc, la population commençait à avoir confiance en disant, ces gens-là, si on les pousse, ils vont réussir. Donc, cette confiance-là faisait que dérouler le budget participatif devenait d'abord pas facile, mais devenait une exigence quand même parce que tout le monde voulait parler, tout le monde avait confiance en l'équipe et il fallait organiser ce forum, cette grande discussion. Et voilà, ça nous a permis d'abord de présenter la commune, de montrer aux populations quelles étaient les limites de la commune sur le plan des ressources. Est-ce que la commune pouvait faire face à ce qui était là, sans le dire, hein, juste montrer ce que la commune a comme recette, comme ressources et sur quoi elle peut compter. Et montrer aussi ce que la ville pouvait faire, jusqu'où elle pouvait aller. Donc, on se rendait compte déjà que sans le recours de l'État, cette question des inondations serait très difficile à gérer. Mais on pouvait quand même prendre en charge certains problèmes courants de la commune. Et ça permet aux populations de connaître les limites de leur commune, les limites de leur collectivité, parce qu'ils l'ignoraient. Mais ça a permis aussi de comprendre quels étaient les défis. Il n'y avait pas que les inondations, il y avait le défi urbain, mais il y avait le défi urbain, c'est-à-dire avec comme la sécurité. Parce qu'on était aussi comme commune reconnue comme étant la plus criminogène. Et ça, c'était grave aussi. Donc, tout ça, il fallait le mettre sur table pour vraiment fouetter un peu la conscience des citoyens. Les gens ont pris conscience des difficultés, des limites et des enjeux de la commune à partir de ce budget participatif. L'écrire et l'envoyer, c'était difficile. Mais le faire dans les quartiers, que chacun s'exprime, qu'est-ce que son quartier a comme ressources, quelles sont ses difficultés en termes sécuritaires, en termes d'inondation, et quelles sont les attentes, c'était important, c'était un débat très important qui nous a permis d'arriver à un niveau de compréhension, de coordination et nous a permis de construire une équipe entre population et collectivités locales, parce que les populations avaient commencé à dire cette mairie n'a pas les moyens, mais ils ont la volonté. Et ça, c'était important que les populations le disent. Quand ils le disent déjà, ça veut dire qu'ils sont prêts déjà à accompagner. Voilà ce qu'on a pu faire avec les populations. Mais c'était très difficile, contraignant, parce que d'abord, il faut respecter ses paroles, il faut respecter ses engagements. Il ne faut pas changer les choses en cours de jeu. Il faut toujours informer les gens quand il doit y avoir des changements. On avait des commissions qui suivaient tout. Il fallait cette confiance. Les commissions le suivi de l'exécution budgétaire, des commissions qui étaient les citoyens qui étaient dans les commissions de marché, de passation de marché. Et tout ça, c'était pour bâtir une confiance entre l'exécutif local et les populations qui sont supposées bénéficier de ce que l'exécutif faisait. Voilà un peu ce qui a été un succès, qui nous a permis finalement, après, jusqu'aujourd'hui, de pouvoir dérouler certains programmes sans trop de difficultés, parce que les contacts sont établis, les repères sont pris, chacun sait jusqu'où il peut compter sur l'autre, que ce soit les populations vers la mairie ou la mairie vers les populations. Jusqu'à présent, on fait un devoir de reddition de comptes, parce qu'on fait, on fait la présentation de l'exécution budgétaire après chaque budget. On présente d'abord le budget de façon publique jusqu'à présent, mais l'exécution budgétaire aussi, on fait la présentation au niveau des populations, ce qui nous permet souvent de poser d'autres problèmes qui n'avaient rien à voir avec ce qui a été vu, et que ça, c'est souvent accepté par la population, parce qu'ils disent que souvent, c'est leurs préoccupations qui sont traduites en problème par la municipalité. Voilà un peu ce que je voulais expliquer. La confiance qu'il faut établir entre population, et il faudrait que les populations aussi sentent que vous êtes capable de porter le projet. Et ça, c'est par vos actes sur le terrain, par vos actes par rapport aux autres, par rapport à l'extérieur de la commune. Quelles sont les relations que vous avez? Est-ce que vous avez assez de crédibilité pour que les populations, même que vous êtes censés défendre, puissent être tranquilles derrière les projets, derrière ces défis, en disant que l'équipe là, on a confiance pour faire ça. Et ça, c'est aussi l'équipe, l'équipe municipale qui doit pouvoir être à la hauteur, montrer déjà que on n'est pas partisan, on est là pour des problèmes qui interpellent la société, pas pour venir régler des problèmes politiques. On n'a pas de problème de personne avec les gens, on a plutôt des problèmes, des défis à relever, pas tout seul, mais avec toute une équipe, avec toute la population. Et je crois que ça, c'était les moments très forts, et quand les populations ont vraiment adhéré à ça. Donc voilà, hein, maintenant, si le panel doit continuer, je crois que j'ai pris un peu de temps pour vous expliquer notre expérience. Si maintenant il y a des préoccupations particulières quelque part, on est à votre disposition encore.
Thank you, Mayor. This was an amazing presentation. Thank you very much. A real case of how to create trust and build participation mechanisms, right? So this builds very much on the presentation that we had before from Uganda, from Ghana, where communication is key, information is key. But you also said, you also mentioned a verb, which is action, right? Was not mentioned before. Other participants mentioned partnerships. They need to set up partnerships. They need to have legal framework. But action is actually key, right? Because only talking and not leading us to any place will not enable us to create the proper environment, right? The credible environment, the trust that we need, right, to move forward, to identify the right information and the right way to go, the path where we are going to go together as a society. So thank you very much for your presentation. I hope you stay a little bit more with us, and so that we can reflect more about perspectives around governance in Africa. Thank you. So with that, I would like to invite Mr. Iskandar Bustani. He's a senior economist, he's consultant expert. In budget, yeah, working for the Basil Foliham Institute of Finance, Ministry of Finance of Lebanon. I think I didn't pronounce it right, the name of your institute, but you can correct me, please.
Okay. No, it's right, yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So lucky me. So you're going to talk about the experience of Lebanon in promoting fiscal transparency, right? Your presentation is already there.
Yes.
Over to you.
Okay, I'll speak if you don't mind in French. Ok, so, donc je vous remercie pour nous avoir reçus aujourd'hui. Donc je m'excuse auprès de Sabine Hatem qui était aussi supposée être là et présentée avec moi, mais malheureusement elle a eu un petit problème technique, donc je vais faire la présentation moi-même. Donc juste je voulais la permission pour pouvoir partager mon écran, s'il vous plaît. Can you please allow me to share my screen, please?
I think you are allowed to share your screen now.
Yeah, now.
Your presentation was there. Now you're sharing.
Yeah, now it's.
Yeah, it's coming back.
Yes.
It's there.
Okay. Donc là, juste pour commencer, je vais présenter un peu l'Institut des finances Bassel Foliham, qui est une institution publique rattachée au ministère des Finances libanais et qui a comme objectif ou comme mission principale de promouvoir, entre autres, l'éducation financière, la transparence fiscale et budgétaire, et de former principalement les fonctionnaires de l'État et les fonctionnaires du ministère des Finances. Donc, pour ne pas m'attarder, l'Institut a une histoire de promotion de la fiscalité et de la transparence budgétaire depuis quelque temps. Aujourd'hui, nous allons présenter deux initiatives dont l'objectif est de renforcer la transparence fiscale, axée principalement sur le citoyen. Juste pour vous donner un peu une idée générale du contexte libanais, donc le Liban est plus que jamais mis à l'épreuve en proie à une crise financière, économique et sociale d'une ampleur inédite, exacerbée par la pandémie Covid-19 et par le drame humanitaire par l'explosion du port du Beyrouth. Donc, vous pouvez voir un peu l'évolution des indicateurs économiques, la contraction du PIB qui est de 25% en 2020, l'évolution des positions fiscales. Et la dette, donc je rappelle que le Liban a fait défaut en mars 2020, donc une première de son histoire. Et là, un peu les indicateurs sociaux, donc une inflation qui a dépassé les 100%, donc on est là dans un contexte d'hyperinflation, un déficit courant de 30%, etc. Donc, l'ensemble de ces crises et des soulèvements populaires ont mis l'accent sur l'absence vraiment de transparence en matière de gestion des fonds publics et de l'argent du contribuable libanais. Donc, sur les 15 dernières années, les finances de l'État ont été gérées de manière opaque et ad hoc, souvent non auditées. Donc, cette manque de transparence et de discipline budgétaire et fiscale ont poussé au plus bas de l'échelle sur le classement de l'Open Budget Survey, donc, qui est publié par l'International Budget Partnership. Donc, vous pouvez voir sur l'écran que le score du Liban en matière de transparence fiscale est de 6 sur 100, donc la participation publique 0, etc. Et vous pouvez voir en bas de la page l'évolution de la transparence budgétaire, donc une dégradation vraiment durant la dernière décennie, surtout que le Liban s'est abstenu à voter un budget durant 10 ans. Donc étant donné ce contexte qui est assez compliqué, nous avons l'Institut des finances soutenu principalement par le Fonds monétaire international et l'Office METAC du Moyen-Orient et l'UNICEF. Nous avons décidé de un peu changer la situation. Donc, l'Institut s'est engagé avec le ministère des Finances à améliorer la transparence et faciliter l'accès à l'information. Donc, le budget au Liban est d'habitude un document de 1000 pages et plus, donc un document qui vraiment retrace toutes les lignes et tous les postes budgétaires d'un budget du gouvernement central. Donc c'est un document très technique, très complexe, et c'est très difficile pour un citoyen normal de pouvoir lire ou bien de comprendre un tel budget, sauf si c'est un expert en finances publiques. Parce que là, après, juste une parenthèse, dans le cas du Liban, par exemple, pour pouvoir calculer le coût du personnel ou le coût de la fonction publique, il faut calculer et faire la somme de plusieurs lignes postes budgétaires de différentes classifications, donc différents niveaux de classification. Ce qui fait que un budget classique, donc le document classique du budget au Liban, une chose très, très, très difficile. Pour cela, l'Institut s'est vraiment investi à développer et à publier le budget citoyen, donc une version vraiment très simplifiée et synthétique du budget de l'État. Et là, nous sommes là pour vous dire que cette initiative en particulier a fait... On n'est pas là pour dire que cette petite initiative a fait des changements extraordinaires au niveau de la transparence budgétaire. C'est-à-dire que durant les 2 dernières années, le score s'est amélioré de 3 points. Donc, ce n'est pas extraordinaire. Surtout qu'il y a d'autres exigences pour améliorer la transparence fiscale, mais au moins, nous avons pu offrir aux citoyens libanais une alternative pratique pour pouvoir analyser le budget, qui est la traduction financière des politiques publiques, et une voie pour pouvoir responsabiliser les preneurs de décision sur une base scientifique. Là, juste pour vous dire aussi que cette initiative, elle a été exportée au Cameroun. Donc, je passe. Donc, j'ai été personnellement au ministère des Finances camerounais pour accomplir une mission d'assistance technique pour aider la direction du budget au Cameroun de développer son propre budget citoyen. Donc, ça a été en 2019. Et ce qui est intéressant, c'est qu'à partir de 2020, le Cameroun a même développé un site web dédié au budget citoyen. Donc, ils ont développé l'initiative davantage. Donc, ça, c'est très intéressant. En 2020, nous avons décidé qu'il faut développer davantage cette initiative. Donc, on a travaillé à digitaliser le budget citoyen. Donc, on a lancé ce qu'on appelle le Lebanon Citizen Budget Dashboard. C'est une plateforme interactive qui va capter toutes les données du budget et de la loi budgétaire au Liban et qui va les présenter de façon interactive et qui va essayer de répondre aux questions que les citoyens d'habitude posent. Donc, je vais juste vous montrer un peu très rapidement le site web. Donc, juste une seconde. Stop sharing. Donc, vous pouvez voir un peu, non? Ou bien pas encore? No?
It's coming, but not yet there.
Not yet, huh?
No.
Okay. Now you can see the screen.
Yes, yes.
Ok. Donc, c'est ça la plateforme. Donc, n'importe quel citoyen peut en fait consulter cette plateforme essayer de voir vraiment comment le gouvernement est en train de dépenser, comment les dépenses évoluent, les dépenses, par exemple, selon la classification fonctionnelle, le coût de la fonction publique. Donc, disons qu'on va rentrer sur cette question-là. How did the personnel cost evolve? Donc là, vous pouvez voir comment les salaires et les salaires vont évoluer et c'est interactif en fonction de l'année. Donc, vous pouvez choisir n'importe quelle année. Donc, principalement les années qui ont été incluses dans cette plateforme. Et donc, c'est vraiment interactif. On peut élargir l'écran, voir par exemple, le tableau, donc la base de données en cliquant quelque part ici. Mais bon, donc juste pour ne pas prendre beaucoup de votre temps, donc je vais vous envoyer le lien sur le chat du Zoom. Vous pouvez examiner et consulter la plateforme. Et là, nous sommes en train de développer davantage la plateforme. Nous allons ajouter des sections des recettes de l'État et nous allons essayer de capter le feedback des citoyens pour d'ailleurs pouvoir répondre à des questions additionnelles, donc des questions peut-être sectorielles sur la protection sociale, sur l'achat public. Donc, une plateforme qui va vraiment aider à faciliter l'accès aux données fiscales, données du budget. Juste pour conclure que cette initiative n'est pas uniquement restreinte, disons, au budget central du gouvernement central. Donc, elle peut être répliquée au niveau des villes, au niveau des localités, parce que, en fin de compte, le principe, c'est le même. C'est de pouvoir faciliter l'accès à une information qui est d'habitude très complexe et technique. Donc, en gros, c'est ça. Je vous remercie pour le temps et j'espère que je n'ai pas pris beaucoup de temps.
Thank you, Iskandar. It's a real challenge to make this information transparent, right? And
Yeah,
without that, you cannot go for real participation because you need to share technical information. I believe sharing technical information, in this case, it's finance, but it could be also engineering, right? Or legal information. Yeah. It's a key challenge for enabling stakeholders to participate. But this is an amazing effort, yeah. And I see the collaboration with Cameroon, very interesting way of replicating practices, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good experience in Cameroon. Thank you a lot.
Maybe you can share more in the next round. So thank you. I see the mayor of Bangui is online, Mr. Emily Gros. I don't know, I don't see a mic. Are you connected, Mr. Emily Gros? Nakombo? Mayor of Bangui? I see your camera sign there, but not your mic. Okay, so let's try to check if we can help you to solve this problem, technical problem, and connect your microphone. Meanwhile, I see that Mr. Adama Soumaré has joined us. He is from Dakar, Senegal, and from WIGO, Women International Employment, Globalizing and Organizing, a global NGO focused on informal economy, informal employment. And Mr. Adama is the coordinator for the initiative Focal Cities at Dakar. Are you connected, Mr. Adama?
Yes, I'm connected.
Welcome. Over to you to share your experience.
Thank you.
Bonjour, you prefer to speak in French, there's translation, yeah.
Yes, I speak in French. Donc, je disais merci à vous pour déjà nous avoir invités à cet espace pour partager l'expérience que nous avons avec vous. Et je pense que c'est une chance pour nous, déjà de partager tout le travail. Dommage que le temps est parti, ne sera pas suffisant pour montrer tout le travail qu'on a accompli, mais sur le sujet précisément, je pense que l'engagement entre les travailleurs, dans les relations entre les travailleurs et les villes en Afrique, nous avons une certaine expérience là-dessus dans le cadre du travail et des recherches accomplies. C'est dire que les villes sont importantes pour nous, c'est pourquoi Dakar a été érigé en ville focale, où nous venons en appui aux travailleurs informels pour les aider à mieux sécuriser leurs moyens de subsistance, mais aussi pour travailler à valoriser leur statut de travailleur. Donc concrètement, c'est dire qu'à propos du sujet d'aujourd'hui, il faudrait peut-être comprendre qui sont ces travailleurs, combien sont-ils, que font-ils, où sont-ils. Je pense qu'il est important pour mieux saisir ce que nous allons dire dans le cadre du travail. Nous savons tous qu'en fait, la plupart des emplois en Afrique sont des travailleurs sont d'emplois informels. On peut constater que la plupart des jeunes de 15 à 24 ans et des femmes qui travaillent en Afrique le font en emploi informel. Et que beaucoup d'unités économiques en Afrique sont informelles. Je pense que des informations complémentaires peuvent être visitées sur les études qui ont été faites par le BIT et Hugo elle-même. Ces travailleurs nous les connaissons, ne sont pas pris en compte par les lois du pays et sont démunis de protection sociale. Et pourtant, ces travailleurs sont des personnes qui font des services essentiels, qui rendent des services essentiels aux populations et qui sont importants aussi dans les chaînes d'approvisionnement. Nous avons déjà, quand on prend les services essentiels qu'ils arrivent à fournir, si on prend l'exemple des récupérateurs dans les décharges de Mbebes, ici précisément à Dakar, ce sont des personnes qui rendent un service environnemental énorme à la récupération déjà des déchets qu'ils font en amont et en aval. C'est dire que si ces déchets étaient accumulés au niveau de la décharge, ou bien enfuis, ou bien arrivés, ce seraient des dégâts importants au sein de l'environnement. Et on constate que aussi ces travailleurs travaillent à leur propre compte. Et la majorité de ces travailleurs n'ont pas de protection sociale, comme je venais de le dire dans leur définition, et vivent des jours et n'arrivent pas à faire d'économie, et ils vivent au jour le jour. C'est pour dire qu'ils survivent au quotidien. Et dans la période du Covid, nous avons fait des constats qui sont plus ou moins alarmants à leur niveau. Déjà, selon les résultats préliminaires que nous avons faits, les mesures barrières pour éviter la propagation du virus ont exacerbé les conditions de vulnérabilité dans les villes africaines, aussi bien à Dakar, Accra ou en Sierra Leone, où nous intervenons, et même à Monrovia au Libéria. On s'est rendu compte que les déguerpissements qui ont été opérés, la limitation de la mobilité, l'absence de clientèle au niveau de leur espace de travail, font que le revenu a subi un coût. Et que ces travailleurs, on sait en fait qu'ils ont des charges dans la période de la Covid avec leur famille qui se trouvent dans la précarité. Avec le manque de revenus, ils ne peuvent pas souvent satisfaire les besoins. D'autant plus qu'ils ne reçoivent aucun appui au niveau des autorités. Et c'est dire qu'ils ne bénéficient pas. Tant on parle beaucoup de la relance dans nos villes, la relance économique, les plans de relance qui ont été faits, mais ces travailleurs n'étant pas pris en charge n'étant pas reconnus comme organisation, ne peuvent pas bénéficier de tout cet appui que l'État est en train de distribuer, mais particulièrement dans certaines villes comme au Sénégal. On s'est rendu compte que l'économie du Sénégal, par exemple, est portée à grands bras par l'économie informelle. C'est pourquoi il y a eu des mesures qui ont été allégées pour permettre aux Sénégalais de pouvoir vivre et de ne pas freiner l'économie dans ce cadre-là. Les défis dans l'engagement pour nous sont importants et sont là. Parce que malgré les contributions que ces travailleurs apportent aux villes et au bien-être des populations, elles ne sont pas reconnues. elles ne sont pas reconnues, elles sont stigmatisées, ils subissent une discrimination. Les cadres réglementaires et légaux dans nos pays sont restrictifs et très répressifs. Leur reconnaissance de leur organisation, comme je le disais tantôt, ne permet pas de les accepter dans des espaces de dialogue avec les autorités. Et ça, c'est vraiment un facteur bloquant dans le cadre quand on parle de bâtir des villes résilientes et inclusives. Et nous pensons qu'il faudrait aller de l'avant avec l'expérience que ces travailleurs ont. Nous savons que les villes sont des espaces idéaux d'innovation. La magnitude de la crise nous invite vraiment à envisager comment on peut bâtir des villes résilientes et inclusives. Dans notre expérience, des résultats palpables plus durables ont été notés. Et on le constate dans beaucoup de villes. Quand on prend l'exemple des travailleurs vendeuses de rue de la Sierra Leone, ils ont vécu une expérience avec la pandémie de l'Ebola. Et ils en ont tiré des expériences. Et face à la COVID, ils ont développé une certaine résilience et ont eu des idées à partager avec les municipalités. Et ça leur a permis de voir comment évoluer l'impact de la COVID sur leur activité et sur leur ville. Et nous pensons qu'il faudrait prendre en compte les exemples et les expériences vécues par ces travailleurs qui sont pour nous une partie de la réponse, de la solution, mais qui ne constituent pas un problème parce qu'ils ont beaucoup d'expérience en fait à partager avec les autorités. Et s'ils sont invités au niveau des espaces de dialogue, de discussion et de prise de décision, nous pensons que des solutions peuvent être trouvées avec eux et parler d'inclusion à ce moment-là vraiment, vraiment réel et concret. On a vu à Dakar, pendant la crise de la COVID, des récupérateurs de déchets qui se mobilisent pour prendre des mesures d'hygiène et de sécurité, prendre de leurs propres fonds pour appuyer les populations pour les aider à mieux soutenir la COVID en distribuant des masques, en distribuant des kits d'hygiène. Vision pour l'avenir, principe pour l'engagement. Vision, c'est à travers tout ce que le réseau a pu élaborer. Et ça se résume en fait en 3 points. Et nous disons que les travailleurs informels, c'est rien pour nous sans nous. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut pouvoir les associer afin de mettre la participation dans les espaces de prise de décision et de contribuer avec les connaissances qu'ils ont développées. Il nous semble qu'à partir de là, on pourrait parler de contribution des travailleurs de l'économie. Pourquoi nous disons aussi ne pas nuire? Nous pensons que au niveau économique, au niveau des actifs, il est important que les autorités les reconnaissent comme travailleurs. Ils ont déjà été affectés par la pandémie. Les mesures que les autorités mettent en place, souvent, peuvent représenter, leur permettre de survivre, mais aussi, souvent, on assiste au contraire parce que leur statut et l'espace de travail perdu ne leur permet pas de s'approprier tout ce que les autorités peuvent mettre en place parce qu'étant considérés comme des personnes de l'informel. Parlant d'envisager de la transformation, nous pensons que la crise est un moment de transformation aussi, corriger les inégalités qui existent. Les plans de relance économique doivent avoir une vision, à notre avis, basée sur les droits pour la transition telle qu'exprimée par la recommandation 204 de l'OIT, des investissements à long terme pour rebâtir l'économie faite avec la compréhension du rôle que le travail de l'informel joue dans les communautés et dans leur pays. Bref, on ne pourrait pas étaler tout ce qu'on a pu avoir comme expérience avec ces travailleurs, toutes les contributions, les participations faites par les travailleurs dans cet exposé. Mais nous sommes ouverts à toutes les questions qui nous seront posées. Et nous sommes aussi prêts à offrir tout l'appui et les ressources dont nous disposons pour une meilleure contribution. Et nous sommes aussi ouverts à des débats individuels pour mieux contribuer, appuyer aussi bien les villes de la société civile, aller de l'avant pour mieux bâtir des villes résilientes en Afrique de l'Ouest, particulièrement aussi des villes inclusives. Merci, je vous remercie de votre attention et de l'accord que vous m'avez donné.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. A very important point about recognizing the role of informal workers in the city. I believe you're translating on the English channel. Sorry, Ruby. Yeah, thank you. Let's invite them, the mayor of Bangui, Republic of Central Africa, Mr. Emile Gros Nakombo. Are you able now to connect? We saw your screen earlier. Oh no, we lost you? Oh, I'm so sorry. I believe, yes, I think we lost, Mayor lost the connection, unfortunately. Okay, so we, as we expect the mayor to come back, to try and join us back, I was intending to set up a round of reflection, a small debate around the panelists, and I believe Mr. Idrissa is still with us. Sarah just said that her cell phone was losing battery. I don't know, Sarah is still connected. Are you able to talk yet? Maybe you can share a little bit before you leave us, Sarah. What do you think are the main bottlenecks, are the main issues, right? That obstacles that impedes us in our cities, in the African cities, to have more engagement of citizens? And what are the potentials? What are the opportunities that you see? Are you there, Sarah, with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Would you like to share a little bit more with us about what do you see about the future?
Yeah, about the future, I think, you know, when you are doing something for someone and that person you are doing for that thing is not participating directly, it is very difficult to sustain that thing. So I would say that whenever we are planning for cities, we have to involve the communities. We engage them. They bring their ideas so that the cities of tomorrow will be nice and they will be manageable. But when we leave these people out, I don't think we shall achieve what we want. Because when you look at the issue of ownership, when the communities are not owning what is put in place, it is another tug of war. So we need to engage them, plan together, make decisions together, so that whatever we put in place, it is sustainable. And once these people are trained in other issues, like now in this pandemic, we have health teams down there, but they are not given trainings to sensitize other people. But when we empower these people at the grassroots, I think everything we do, it will be a success. If we try to engage them, make good partnerships and meaning partnerships, and even participation, let it be active participation, but not saying communities participate, but it is indirect participation. So with that, I think we can mitigate some other issues if we involve directly these communities. And in planning, most likely, we plan together so that at the end, what we have planned will be success and the ownership will be theirs, so that that thing is sustained. And empowering these people, is so crucial, because you can't be at the community at all the time. You'll be planning other things up there, but when the communities are not empowered, again, it is another tug of war. So if we are doing the partnerships, let the partnerships be meaningful. Also, another thing is that we let these people make decisions for their slum upgrading, and if they are to prioritize something to be done, because as the SDI we collect data and we empower people in communities to collect this data, so they come up with issues knowing the issues there which affects them. So if we empower them and let them be at the forefront of planning, it will be a success, and we shall not face any challenges in future times. That's what I can say, but even the battery is like going off. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for your contribution, right? And we need to understand all the gaps that we face, even the digital gap. No, you said your battery, your cell phone is running out of battery. So this is the reality that we live, right? In our cities, there are digital gaps. People are not able to access information. So many efforts have to be made to reach out to those communities and enable what you said, meaningful engagement. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you.
I see, thank you. I see the mayor is still not with us again, but I see Mrs. Sabine Hatem join us. She's a senior economist and policy analyst at the Basil Fullerheim Institute of Finance in Lebanon. Maybe you can share a little bit of your insights around the obstacles and opportunities. Your colleague already shared the difficulties of sharing financial technical knowledge, and Sarah just mentioned that data is empowering, right? So the communities in Uganda using data to be more empowered and in the decision-making process. Maybe you can share some of your insights, Mrs. Sabine Hatten. Are you connected now?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Yes, I can share a few thoughts with you based on our experience here in Lebanon. First, maybe two very important challenges we had to face. First was the effective access to data that I think everyone around the world I mean, there's plenty of data around, but sometimes it's real difficult for us to access it in a way in which we can transform it and then make it available to the public in a way that they would understand. So this was a little bit difficult for us in Lebanon in particular, and I don't know if that is the case in other countries. The fact that we do not have an integrated financial management system across ministries, and this is an institutional gap somewhere, is an impediment to the quick and kind of easy dissemination of data. So this is from one side, from the side of the institutions and the ministries and the state. You have also another challenge that is on the side of the civil society and the public, is that maybe a random citizen is not, expected to know, to directly understand the financial issues that are some complex. But I mean, there are civil society organizations and community-based organizations that are here to do the facilitation role between the citizens and the state and the local governments as well. And one challenge that we had to face is the fact that those organizations are not always, they need to build their capacities to be a good aid, to be a good facilitator, and to have a fruitful dialogue between the citizens and the state. They need to master a little bit more these technical issues. And I'm talking about like an issue that is the budget, but it can apply to health issues, to education. I mean, it depends on the field of expertise. So that's why also we started ourselves a dialogue, or we open some capacity building services to those institutions to help them. You know, but it's a long way anyway. The important thing is that partnership is being built among state institutions, civil society, excuse me, institutions, and even local governments in Lebanon, because they work a lot with the local government. So maybe those are the most important challenges I would I would share with, and I think that maybe we all share. So so these are the two challenges, the most important ones.
Yeah, no, thank you, Sabine. I would love to go back to Amir again to listen about the participatory budget exercise, because I myself was working on the participatory budget here in the city of São Paulo, and I was working for the city, and I felt that it's very difficult also, not only for us from the government to share this information, but also for citizens to be prepared, to be open, to understand financial issues, because it's much better, it's much simple to request things, right? But then understanding the deeper issues, to be able to go, in a meaningful partnership, as Sarah said, this is the most difficult task. I don't know, Mayor Idrissa, are you still there with us? Not quite sure. Mayor Idrissa, are you still there? Okay, maybe we can go back to Sareen. Sareen, maybe you can share a little bit from your sector. What do you see the main obstacles and opportunities? You mentioned legal framework in Ghana. How do you see that happening in other places? Sareen?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I was wondering, how do you see that evolving, right? In other cities in Africa, in other countries, this interesting experiences that you shared, right?
Okay, just a clarification, the examples I gave are mostly from Kenya. Ghana was just one.
Sorry, I mixed up.
Don't worry about
You're
it.
right.
Okay, look, again, Ana Claudia, I'd like to come back to the issue of law and participatory frameworks. I like what Sabine raised on the issue of citizen participation in the, hang on, sorry, let me get to English. Okay.
Oh, I think the interpreter is in the wrong channel. So
okay.
if the interpreter,
right.
Please move. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
In terms of some of the budget processes that, for example, are in Kenya, there's a study that we did with the Water Integrity Network, where we sought to look at the public financial management system in Kenya vis-a-vis the water sector, and how well the IFMIS system was actually operating within a devolved structure, and how well were citizens engaging within the budgetary process. To be honest, yes, dialogues, yes, roundtable meetings, yes, community-driven initiatives. But again, you cannot substitute a framework that enables or that creates an enabling environment for this work to take place, for this work to be formalized within the state, within the state's governance. For example, over here, it's very clear you have the budget cycle. Those are the first information that is actually delivered to the citizens in terms of simplifying what kind of information is actually given to the ground. Number one, know your budget cycle. Number two, get your calendar as a community in terms of when these budget cycle meetings are actually supposed to take place. Did they take place? And they're very expensive. It's a very expensive exercise. Citizen participation, especially when the state is now backing it, it is a very expensive exercise. And we actually saw it. And this is where you saw in certain cases in Kenya, where you had certain counties that hived out a bit of that participatory process to civil society organizations, or to allow civil society organizations to help them convene some of these meetings and then input in the county budgets or input within the national budget. So this is something we saw a lot within the water sector. There were also challenges within the IFMIS system itself, whether it came to the issues of transparency, whether it came to the issue of information being uploaded the way it was supposed to be uploaded, being information in terms of expenditure. Now we come back to the citizen. What role does the citizen play? Actually, it's the oversight. Civil society organizations ultimately is an oversight role. So in terms of capacitating the various citizens to exercise some sort of oversight role. Was that borehole drilled? Were those pipes put down? Was that well actually put there? Was that bridge actually built? But it goes further. You're not an engineer. You may not know what the specs were in terms of what was required. You were only looking for whether a pipe had been put or not, which means now additional resources coming in. Where does the citizen come in to find out whether it was a 12-inch pipe or a 3-inch pipe that had been put in there? And that is what is actually causing a problem. That because you put in a 3-inch pipe, you were supposed to put a 12-inch pipe, somebody ate 9 inches, of the funding that was actually supposed to go there. So these are really some of the challenges that we've seen. But as I mentioned, it is still important that we explore, that mayors, local authorities, within whichever governance framework you are working in, explore ways of how do we formalize and how do you formalize getting citizens really engaged. Let it not be something that is operating in a vacuum, but rather something that is part and parcel of the governance of a country. Thank you, Ana Claudia.
Thank you, Sarin. And also, I think it's important because then you go beyond negotiation, right? And you go beyond political terms. Otherwise, you have to start the negotiation all over again every time a new person comes, right? At the presidency or at the local level as a mayor.
Absolutely. And this is another thing that we saw as well on the ground, just at the county level, the high turnover. Of every time a new administration comes in, that's it. People are being moved. So somewhere, yes, there is a very strong argument in strengthening the systems that exist. People come and go. Systems are there to stay. And whatever it is that, whoever it is that comes next into power, or the next mayor or the next local authorities, there are robust systems with which, these engagements can continue. Because for a long time, pre-2010, for example, we did see things getting done, but as soon as the person, and I'm sure Monsieur Diallo talked about political will, when that political will is not there, or you may not have somebody that is as committed, that is where to a certain extent you rely on the system to support you.
Yeah, and sometimes you might have political will, but from the civil society side, not from the government side, right? And then the systems will allow you the process to continue all over time, right? But maybe we can go back to South Africa. Mr. De Wit is still with us. Maybe you can share a bit, is South Africa, how the systems are working in South Africa? Are there legal frameworks supporting these partnerships at the local level eventually?
Yes, there is. If in South Africa, you can trace the strategic intent of the SDGs, that includes citizen engagement, through our legal framework. It starts in the Constitution, it drops down into regional and local government acts, and also a reporting structure within which we report citizen engagement back up to national level that feeds back into the SDGs. So I think we've got a brilliant legal structure to support citizen engagement, but there is, in my opinion, a bit of a lack of political will. You sometimes get the feeling that the politicians doesn't want the citizens to know what their rights are, because then they can't be manipulated. So the legal framework is in place. There's shall I say, a systemic problem with application in certain areas.
Yeah, but as some of you said that, I believe it was Sabine, I don't remember now. It costs, right? It takes time. I think it was Sarin. Yeah, it takes time and it costs money, participation. So if you have a political term that ends in 3 or 4 years, and you invest your time in participation, that's eventually a risk for the mayor, right? But it costs also money. You have to create structures at the city level, spaces where people meet. How is it working in your city? So how are these spaces of dialogue organized?
We've got 14 wards, so the spaces of dialogue are in the wards itself. And we've got a formal program that starts at the beginning of the financial year, flows throughout the financial year until the end of the financial year. So it's a whole consultation process that feeds into a strategic plan, which is eventually approved by the council, by the local council. And then it goes into implementation. The cycle itself is compliance driven and not necessarily performance and value creation driven. So you can comply, or a municipality, I'm not talking about ours, a municipality can in general comply to all the requirements and report on it, but still be completely ineffective. So there's a huge move in South Africa towards the accountability and responsibilities of both local government and citizens in the value creation process in order to ensure that value is created and not just all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah, very, very, very good point. And I think I have a good message for the international development agencies as well, right? So we have learned to work on a project basis in the last years and measure indicators, but not outcomes. So at the end of the day, we end up having 1 million projects, but what is really changing? So COVID shows us that not much, right? So.
Well, I think COVID's impact was actually tremendous because we were not allowed to do our consultations on a ward basis. We had to publish in a newspaper with an email address, and the people involved in the strategic plan indicated that the quality of inputs just came in at a different level. It was just in very great quality and very directional. It's not I need a speed bump in my road, which normally happens in the meeting. So it was inputs that can actually give direction, policy direction, as well as influence the budget in total. And the move to the electronic side was completely unexpected. So instead of nearly 2,200 engagements that we have during the year, we only had 34. So that was so the citizens are not feeling that we actually spoke to them. So for the next financial year, I'm sure that we're going to put a few different mechanisms in place through social media and so on. So there will definitely be a change in focus in the next financial year. But in general, there's a focus towards meaningful engagement with the citizens as well. It's, as you said, it costs money. Meaningful engagement costs money, and when the organization goes into a financial crisis, that's the last place the money moves to. in South Africa, of our 237 municipalities, about 52% are currently in financial trouble. There's one of our municipalities that takes 3.5 years to pay a creditor. So the general state of municipalities are not that good, but government has implemented what they call a district development model. It's being legislated in the next month or 2 months, where all the planning and budget will go centrally within a district and not at local government level anymore. Of course, corruption is a big problem at the local government level, as it is with our previous national governments. Yeah, the engagement is definitely moving towards how are we going to derive value and sustain what we're doing for the long term.
Yeah, this is a big challenge. So maybe let's go for a final round. Around the panelists. And I was interested about the experience from Lebanon, sharing the experience with Cameroon. And I believe Sareen, through her network, is also doing a lot of, sharing practices and experiences. How can we actually fast forward this process of building capacity? Everybody spoke about building capacities, having access to information, improving understanding of what's going on. So how can we create mechanisms of collaboration that can help our cities, our organizations to fast forward this process of, accessing technical knowledge, learning from practical experiences? What are the mechanisms you are using? I don't know if your city in South Africa is engaged in exchanging through the local government association or other networks. And I would like to know more about also Senegal, Ouigo. Ouigo is a global network. They're working a lot in terms of sharing experiences. So let's do a final round, and then let's see if Mayor from Bangui is able to reconnect. So I don't know, Adama, would you like to start sharing your insights from Ouigo, being a global network? I don't know if Adama is still connected. Adama, are you connected? You see online?
Oui,
Yes.
Je suis connecté, j'avais coupé le micro, mais vous pouvez reprendre la question.
Sure. I was talking about sharing practices and experiences, right? Because we see that we have many challenges in terms of creating capacity and sharing technical knowledge. So how are you working within your organization, Ouigo? Ouigo is a global organization, right? So you're working, supporting informal employers in several countries. How are you exploring this advantage and then sharing practices and experiences to be able to, support and help your peers in other countries and other cities?
Merci pour l'intérêt du travail que fait Hugo. Je l'avais dit tantôt dans l'introduction. En fait, nous sommes préoccupés par la sécurisation des moyens de subsistance des travailleurs informels et à l'amélioration de leur statut. C'est quasiment le centre de travail dans lequel nous sommes. Et qu'il faut dire dans les villes. Dans les villes, nous travaillons avec des travailleurs en emploi informel. Si nous prenons l'exemple de la ville de Dakar, nous travaillons avec les restauratrices de rue qui fournissent des services essentiels, les marchands ambulants qui sont importants dans le système de la redistribution des produits des entreprises formelles, avec les récupérateurs de déchets. les récupérateurs de déchets qui sont dans la décharge et qui font aussi un certain nombre de travail. Nous avons aussi les lingères de rue et les marchands de marché. C'est dire que tout le travail qui est fait, c'est comment nous pouvons faire pour mieux améliorer la connaissance des autorités, comment il faudrait partager ces études, les informations que nous avons, l'expérience. C'est que nous procédons déjà par des études et des recherches que nous faisons dans chaque ville. Et à travers ces recherches et ces études, les résultats sont partagés avec les autorités et les travailleurs en emploi informel. Et dans ce sens-là, nous organisons des espaces de dialogue que nous appelons des dialogues politiques, où les travailleurs en emploi informel et les autorités, que ce soit les autorités locales ou les autorités centrales, arrivent à être dans cet espace, à discuter, à échanger sur les problèmes, où les travailleurs informels ont au moins l'occasion de s'adresser directement aux autorités, d'exprimer leurs besoins et aussi d'échanger avec les autorités sur les solutions qu'ils ont eu face à certains problèmes. Souvent, on dit que les travailleurs informels sont des délinquants ou bien ils ne payent pas de taxes, ils sont à marge de l'économie, ils bloquent l'économie informelle. Nous nous sommes rendus compte que c'est tout juste des stigmatisations et des exclusions. C'est pourquoi nous nous sommes dit qu'il est important de faire connaître tout l'apport que les travailleurs informels font dans un pays. Et cela, c'est à travers les études que nous faisons, à travers les recherches que nous faisons, mais aussi comment nous arrivons à renforcer les connaissances de ces travailleurs informels en négociation collective ou sur le cadre légal dans le contexte où ils sont, parce que nous sommes dans des pays où ce sont des sociétés organisées. Comment ils peuvent comprendre l'environnement de travail et l'environnement juridique qui les guide. C'est ainsi qu'ils pourront mieux discuter avec les autorités, partager avec eux. Et les expériences vécues dans une ville comme la ville de Dakar, souvent servent d'exemple à une autre ville, par exemple la ville d'Accra ou la ville de Lima, où nous sommes aussi présents en tant que ville focale. Et nous organisons régulièrement ce qu'on appelle des retraites, où les différentes villes viennent avec les expériences. Et dans ces retraites, nous invitons aussi, il nous arrive d'inviter les organisations de travail informels pour qu'ils puissent venir partager avec eux les expériences, les solutions qu'ils ont face à des problèmes qu'ils ont vécus et où ils ont trouvé peut-être des débuts de solutions. Il nous arrive aussi dans ces espaces d'inviter des autorités ou des organisations de la société civile, que ce soit des centrales syndicales, ou aussi certaines organisations de recherche internationale. Et à travers cela, nous arrivons à faire des partages, nous arrivons à échanger ce que Hugo a fait comme recherche, ce que Hugo a produit comme recherche, ce que les travailleurs aussi ont fait. Parce qu'il faudrait comprendre en fait que Hugo est une organisation mondiale qui regroupe des chercheurs, qui regroupe aussi des juristes, mais particulièrement aussi des organisations de travailleurs informels qui constituent le conseil d'administration de Hugo. Ça aussi, je pense que c'était bon de le partager avec vous aujourd'hui pour que vous puissiez savoir que ce que nous faisons en fait, nous pensons que tout le travail qui est fait avec ces travailleurs informels dans les villes et tous les échanges que nous avons avec les autorités méritent d'être partagés, aussi bien avec les travailleurs, mais aussi bien avec les autorités. Et nous nous sommes dit dans notre stratégie, par exemple, à Dakar qui constitue un véritable problème avec les travailleurs informels qui sont là. Nous nous sommes dit que cet espace public doit être un espace inclusif à notre niveau. Comment y arriver? C'est en discutant avec les autorités, en faisant comprendre aux travailleurs informels qu'il y a en fait des normes aussi qui guident, qui régissent ces espaces, qui régissent les activités qui sont menées. Et pour cela, ce n'est pas un affrontement, c'est aller vers des espaces de dialogue, discuter, nouer des alliances dans la ville pour mieux soutenir le travail qui est fait par les autorités et par les travailleurs informels. D'ailleurs, dans le cadre de la ville de Dakar, nous sommes en discussion avec le Haut Conseil du dialogue social, qui est vraiment préoccupé par les travailleurs informels ici à Dakar. Comment arriver à trouver des solutions? Comment arriver à régulariser la situation de ces travailleurs à travers la transition de la recommandation 204 dont on parle, qui est vraiment une préoccupation à Dakar. Il ne faut pas le nier. Nous savons tous que l'économie du Sénégal, pour une grande partie, est portée par l'économie informelle. La plupart des travailleurs dans notre ville sont des travailleurs informels. Et comment il faut arriver à ce que cette contribution que ces travailleurs font puisse être mieux intégrée dans l'économie nationale? Comment nous devons arriver à ce que ces travailleurs puissent être régularisés dans la ville? Et voilà pour l'instant ce que je peux dire. Si j'ai répondu à votre question, c'est tant mieux. Sinon, je suis encore toujours prêt à partager avec vous tout le travail que nous avons fait, aussi bien à Dakar ou à Accra ou dans les autres villes africaines où nous sommes présents. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Mr. Adama, very clear. Ms. Sareen, would you like to come back and share a little bit from your network?
Look, I think in terms of how do we harness the knowledge that already exists within our community. First, I think, which is something that is equally being done today, is really the establishment of communities of practice, but supported by tech. Now, in our case, we have what is called the Susanna Africa Regional Chapter, which is this very big knowledge management platform that we have established. There's one for the MENA region, there's one in Latin America, there's one in Asia. And these platforms bring together really all the sector stakeholders. It consolidates, collates, and collects all the tools that are available, but also provides a platform for reach and learning programs that can take place virtually. I think with the disruption that COVID has caused, with the fact that Zoom has gotten us closer to each other, it would be good to actually see whether UCLG or whether the academy can actually set up some sort of learning platform, like I said, one for Africa, one for Asia, one for Latin America, bringing together these sector stakeholders, bringing together the lessons learned, the experiences, and really having the dialogue start and support and capacitate really these communities of practice. So that's what I would like to share from our sector, moving to this sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sareen. Our colleagues from Lebanon would like to share a little bit more about the collaboration with Cameroon or any other collaborations ongoing.
Yes, of course, maybe close on the idea that what was really helpful, at least to us, or that helped us achieve reach our goal faster, was the approach and the partnership that was there to achieve whatever we want to achieve in terms of access to data. When we started, we were not quite familiar with all these issues, but we had partners that were there. They were technical partners. So some of them brought the expertise, others brought the financial means, because in Lebanon, we needed financial support to be able to advance on this front. So, and what was interesting in the approach, that it was really what we call a co-production approach. So each brought its own, expertise, and we worked together on this. And we were able this way to really factor in the specificity, let's say, of Lebanon into the products or the services we were designing. And this is the same approach that was adopted for Cameroon. When we did the citizen budget, we helped Cameroon develop its own citizen budget. We were requested actually by the French Agency for International Cooperation to do this. So they came to us, asked us to partner with them to deliver something for Cameroon. And we worked on it with the vision that in the year after, they should be able to do it alone. So, they shouldn't be relying on us. So this is where the co-production takes place. They were asked to do it. We were there just supporting them, coaching them on how to do it, and they just understood how it happened and they were able to do it. So there was sustainability. So I think rethinking the approaches in which we're working is something that contributes to the success or the failure of an initiative and to its sustainability mostly.
Thank you, Sabine. I don't know if Mr. Mayor is still with us, Mr. Idrissa Diallo. I don't see him. Maybe he already disconnected. Yes. Sarah, are you still with us? Not anymore. Yeah.
Chair,
Are you there?
Sarah typed
yeah.
input.
Sarah typed it. I think she left. She was running out of battery. Since you are with the mic, Mr. David, would you like to share a little bit about the idea of communities of practice, sharing knowledge?
Yeah, I think that there's quite a number of communities of practice in our local government space. Each one of our, let me call them business silos, are in a community that runs countrywide. So the engineers have a community that runs countrywide, and CFOs and the IT people and so on. So there are ample opportunities to learn from each other. We are in a municipality where there's we're seen as one of the success stories in the country. So there are lots of study tours that come here when there's a successful intervention in another municipality. We pack up and we do the study tours to go out there. But then it's not just on local government level. Our interaction with our provincial government is at the same level. They coordinate our interaction with each other in municipalities. We also have our South African Local Government Association that coordinates interaction. And then we also have the agendas and the policies from national government that applies within our space. It's normally water, sanitation, infrastructure development, and so on. So everything that filters into this ends up in some or other form in our strategic plan, short, medium, and long term. And then there's also, of course, the feedback cycle. One thing that I found during COVID that was quite interesting, and it happened in every environment. It's like there's a spirit of caring that sprung up in the official structures or the government structures, and they seem to have closed around the communities to institute extra security around their communities. And I think it will be a while before this eases up. But this closed down, this let's take hands together, created an opportunity for the communities to work closer together. So also internally within the municipalities, there's a definite progress in let's listen to each other, let's take hands together, and let's achieve things together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no further urgent wishes of last statement, and I see we don't have mayors with us anymore, so I will just wrap up a little bit, try to wrap up a little bit. This was a very meaningful panel. At the end of the day, we were not connected to each other before, but I think very interesting messages, fundamental messages and insights came out. So I understand not only from Africa, but it is for the global, participation is a must, right? And we need to foster spaces of dialogue and create trust, but meaningful and empowering participation. Not only participation like consultations or make-up consultations, but really engage citizens in the process of decision-making in terms of budget, decision-making in terms of how the territory will be developed. It's critical to have access to technical information. You just said technical professionals work on silos. I believe COVID also brought us this holistic perspective of having to work multi-sectoral. It's very challenging though to convene technical knowledge, especially in the case presented by Lebanon Finance, shows us that it requires lots of work, dedication, and investment to enable this information be, open and available to the public, and also engage with the public around this information. But we also saw from the many participants that COVID is affecting mostly people in situation of vulnerability, people living in informal settlements, people working informally, the urban poor. And COVID also brings us a momentum in a spirit of solidarity, caring, as you just said, right, of including these segments in the society, expanding the right to the city, and the minimum right that the citizens have to access what's minimal, that's shelter and land. The mayor also said that action is needed, so not only dialogue. If there's no action, trust will not be created, will not enable an environment of co-production and co-responsibility, as it is stated in the new urban agenda. And Sarin said we need to institutionalize. So what is the way ahead? It goes beyond participation, it goes beyond dialogue, it goes beyond outputs, it goes towards changing systems. As only through a new approach that we'll be able to change systems. And for that, we need political will, not only from governments, but also from the citizens willing to participate, right? If there's a good foundation in terms of participation, systems, national, regulatory, legal frameworks, it will be a basis for continuity, for sustainability of actions that are starting to be taken now with COVID. Maybe one important instrument that we have are the global and regional networks. We are now within the platform of UCLG Africa, which is a regional network connected to a global network. It's fulfilling its function, its social function, it's as a regional global public good, right? And we are using this space to convene experiences, practical knowledge, and build a critical mass and reflections on our way beyond COVID. So it's critical the role that these communities of practices and networks can play in terms of building capacities and creating spaces for co-production and collaboration. So are my takeaways from the session today. I really enjoy to moderate this one and to meet you all virtually. And I really hope we'll meet again soon in the next space of our committed community of practice. Thank you very much. And thank you, UCLG Faryad, for organizing all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for
everyone.
the interpreters. Thank you.
Yes.
Merci. Thank you, Sarin. Please do share your email.